Welcome to a More Beautiful World podcast with Susan Renee, a place for those of us with the desire to expand our consciousness, tap into higher vibrations of love, and to connect into a community where together we can make the world a more beautiful place. I'm so eager to share with you what I've learned on my journey in discovering how we're all connected and how what we do for one, we do for us all. Here, I'll be sharing my own experiences, knowledge, and expertise for how you can heal, transform, and ascend your being so that together we can create the more beautiful world we all know is possible. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of A More Beautiful World. In this episode, we're talking about how you choose love over fear. And in this episode, I'm going to teach you how to expand your awareness to operate out of love instead of fear. When you choose love over fear as you make decisions, you choose the heart centered, higher vibrational path of your journey, the one that is in alignment with your highest self, your inner being. And when you operate out of fear and make decisions based out of fear, you are choosing a low vibrational state that is out of alignment with your higher self, out of alignment with your inner being. And then your healing and your transformation cannot take place. So, if you are ready to expand your awareness, to heal, to transform, and to get into alignment with your higher self by choosing love over fear, then this episode is for you. So, again, today I really want to talk about what it means to choose love over fear because I think it's said kind of frequently in society, but I really want to break that down so you can fully understand what I'm talking about and how it's showing up in your life. Then I do want to share some questions for you to really help you expand your awareness and to get a pulse on what energy you've been operating out of. Has it been out of love or has it been out of fear? Um, then I'm going to take you through an example today of what it looks like to shift from a place of fear to a place of love when making decisions. And of course, as always, I'm going to leave you with some practices, some tips and tricks to begin so you can expand your awareness into a more loving awareness, into choosing love over fear. So there was a really beautiful quote that I wanted to bring in today, and it's from A Course in Miracles. And that is this: all healing is essentially a release from fear. And I think as we talk through today, I want you to have that in your minds, because if you are on a journey of healing, if you are on a journey of transformation, which many of you listening to this podcast are, because that's how you found me and have connected with me, I think it's so important that we set the intention of wanting our healing, and in order to do that, we do need to release the fear. So what's the opposite of fear? Love, right? And that's why this episode is all about choosing love over fear. So let's first talk about what it actually means to choose love or to choose fear and how that shows up in life, right? Let's just kind of drop in to this episode and talk about what the difference is between love and fear. So, what does it mean to choose love? When it comes to self love, which I believe is the heart of all of our love, right? This means self compassion. This means self forgiveness. This means self acceptance. Choosing to accept yourself exactly as you are, forgiving yourself for things that have transpired in the past, and, instead seeing the lessons and the blessings of the things that have gone on, and having grace for yourself and where you're at on the journey. you know, on this topic, it's really choosing to love yourself despite any circumstances. You accept yourself fully. Choosing love also means choosing abundance and choosing gratitude. It means being grateful for all that you have, focusing on the good in your life, focusing on all the beautiful things and all the beautiful beings that you love and adore. Choosing love is about allowing your divine essence and your authentic self to shine through. It really is speaking your truth and setting boundaries, for your energy. It's living in your truth. It's trusting in and expressing your power. It's making the choice to show up for yourself, to show up for your needs, for your wants, for your desires. So we'll expand on that a little bit more in a moment. But I want to talk about the opposite, right? What is choosing fear? What does that feel like? What does it look like? Well, it's really the opposite of everything I just mentioned. But it is being afraid to forgive yourself, being afraid to let go of that shame, that blame, that guilt, that resentment, being afraid to let go of any old energies, that are holding you back. It's choosing negative self-talk, and allowing that inner critic, to weigh you down. It's being harsh with the self, and it's feeling like you're not enough, you're not worthy of receiving. Fear is also a scarcity and a lack mindset. It is the fear of not having what you need. It's making decisions out of scarcity, fear of not having enough, fear of running out of something. It's not having appreciation for what is in your life and instead focusing on what is not in your life. Which the more you focus on what is not in your life, you're only creating more scarcity and lack, right? That's why fear can be such a detrimental energy to be operating out of. And fear is also shunning aspects of yourself because you are afraid of being seen for who you truly are. It's operating and going out into the world only partially as yourself, or wearing a mask of who you are, or censoring certain parts of yourself because you don't want to be fully seen, by the world. So now that we kind of have just a general aspect of, love versus fear, I want to add in, one more little parameter here, one more little tidbit. Because you see, the truth is that you are love. We all are love. We are all made of love and light. And your higher self, your inner being, your, whatever you want to call it, your divine self, right? Your divine self knows this. It knows you are love. It knows your highest vibration is love. And fear comes in when we're acting out of alignment, when we're out of alignment with this knowing. So when we talk about choosing love, we are talking about choosing alignment with the highest self. Allowing your inner being and your divine essence, your higher self to guide you, and let love guide you. And it feels good when we're operating out of love because that is who you are, right? When you are in alignment with your inner being, with your higher self, right? That feels really good. And that's when we feel a lot of satisfaction and joy, right? And it doesn't feel good being in fear because fear is out of alignment. Your inner being, your higher self is always in love and light. It's never going to come down into fear. But when you're swirling in fear, when you're acting out of alignment, it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? It's not going to be satisfying. It might be sad. It might be anxious. It might be worrisome, right? So know and remember that one of the reasons we want to choose love over fear It's because love is who we really are. And that's why it feels so good to be in alignment with that and to operate out of love instead of fear. So that was a little more philosophical, a little more esoteric perhaps. But how do we actually bring this practice into our lives, right? Maybe you already know you're a fearful person. Maybe you have some anxiety and you're feeling like you operate more out of fear than out of love. So I think one of the best ways is to bring some awareness into your decision making. And that will help you understand and have this awareness of, are you operating and acting out of fear or out of love? So here's a few questions that I just want you to ponder as I read through them. And they're really to determine, again, if you've been acting out of fear or out of love. So when you last reached out to your friends to catch up, was it rooted from love or fear? Were you reaching out to them because you haven't been, or were you afraid that you were going to be forgotten? When you left that last comment, on social media, or you shared, a reel or a story or a post, right? Was that rooted from love or from fear? When you decided to eat that bowl of salad the other day, was it coming from a place of love or was it coming from a place of fear? Was it, oh my gosh, I love myself so much, I'm going to eat this salad, or I'm so afraid to get fat and I'm so afraid that everyone's going to hate me if I don't, if I'm not skinny enough this summer, right? Was the decision from love or from fear? When you took that last job, or that last assignment, was it out of love or was it out of fear? And when you finally decided to step out of that toxic relationship or that toxic friendship, was that rooted from love or from fear? And maybe recall the last time you reacted, to some harsh comment, that came from someone you love. Was that reaction rooted from a place of love or from a place of fear? And more simply, my last few questions for you. Think about the last time you said yes to something. Was that out of love or out of fear? And how about the last time you said no? Was that from love or from fear? So as you ruminate on these questions, because I bet you're already starting to see some patterns in how you're making decisions, I want to give you a very simple example that just recently happened in my life. So I had some friends in town a couple weekends ago, and they were in for 2 days, and I just really wanted to optimize time with them. They're from out of state. They just all happened to be in town at the same time. And after spending one full day with them on Saturday, we had plans to get back together, Sunday around noon, and we were hanging out into the evening. So one of my friends works for a band, and that was on tour, and that's why they were in town. So the Sunday, we were going to be hanging out all day, and then we were going to end with an 8 p.m. show that was going to go until like midnight or something. So if you don't know this about me already, I am usually in bed by like 9 to 10 p.m. because I'm a morning person and I love my sleep. And I love my routine because it just feels really good. So staying up late for a concert, of music that I like totally wasn't really into, it wasn't super appealing. But, I really did want to say yes to maximize time with my friends, of course. Well, that Sunday morning, I woke up and I was just not feeling great. Physically, I was just really tired. I had a bit of a sore throat. I had sore ears. And I knew there was no way I was going to make it through the night into that concert. So I really felt into my heart that day. Heart, what do you need? What do I need? Like, what is the most loving thing for me today? So, I really did want to see my friends. I love them dearly. And that's definitely a decision out of love, and I didn't want to just, cancel the whole day. But instead of saying yes to the whole day as we had planned it, out of fear of abandonment from my friends or out of fear of disappointing them or fear of them rejecting me, for not showing up, or even a fear that I wouldn't get to spend time, with them again soon because they do live out of state, right? So instead, out of love for myself and for my being and for my current energy space, I, talked with them, let them know how I was feeling, and we decided to go for dinner at a very healthy restaurant that had some great high vibe food that I knew I needed to nourish myself that day. And so, out of love for both seeing my friends and also honoring myself. I made a compromise, right? I wanted to spend time with them. I know I needed the nourishment. I combined them all out of love for myself. And it really was the best for all of us. Now, I know my old self, Susan, a few years ago, would have suffered through that night, would have stayed up late, would have probably gone out to a crappier restaurant, would have self sacrificed out of fear. Again, fear of abandonment, fear of them rejecting me, fear of, disappointing them. Right. And that's sad. That's sad to think about, but I'm grateful that I did not make that decision and that I do not make those decisions anymore because the new me who loves me, and chooses to operate out of love, I opened up and I was vulnerable and I shared my authentic self with my friends and I set some boundaries and, I honored my energy. And in that, I was supported in love by my friends, and I chose out of love for myself. It was best for me. And my tribe, my dear soul family, they showed up. And, luckily at this point in my life, I only allow people into my tribe and into my life who respond with loving energy, and that's also a choice of love versus fear. Right. So I know that's a pretty simple example, but I share that with you to help you understand how, as you're navigating your journey, as you're making decisions in your life, as you're making plans or, have to make work decisions or decisions about relationships in your life, right? We have to cultivate this level of awareness and as you ask, yourself, as you make these decisions, what energy am I connected into right now? And I don't even think, I know that's how we put this into practice. As I was contemplating, my Sunday with my friends and what I needed, um, I thought through all the options, right? I thought about, staying through the whole night and, toughing it out, making it through the late night concert, even though I felt crappy. But what you need to practice and what I did in that moment is you ask yourself, what energy am I connected into right now? And the energy that I was connected into when I thought about, staying with them the whole day, going through the night at the concert, that was all fear. It was all fear. And when I felt into the decision of doing a nice, healthy dinner, getting a little time in with my friends, and going to bed early that night, that was love. When you check in on these decisions you're making and can ask yourself, what energy am I connected into right now? That is how you start to choose love over fear. Now, of course, a little quick aside here, I feel worth mentioning you do have to care about how you feel, which I'm going to say you do care about how you feel if you're listening to this podcast, because when you have the awareness around it, you have to care enough to want to operate out of love, to choose love. Right? But as you go through your decisions, maybe, go through some of the recent decisions you made, or go through some upcoming decisions, upcoming experiences that might be coming into your life. Go through some relationships that might be in your life and ask yourself, is this decision, is this experience, is this relationship, is this coming from a loving energy or is it coming from a fearful energy? Think about some of those questions I posed earlier, and how you get faced with these decisions, throughout your days, your weeks, your months ahead. As these things come up, go back to what energy am I connected into, right? If it's the relationship, if you're just afraid, to not be alone, even though it's a super toxic relationship, right? That's fear. How do you make a decision from love? What does that even look like? And I think that's step 2 in kind of building this awareness and then putting it into practice of choosing love over fear. Because when you are finally faced with making a decision, ask yourself these 2 questions, right? What would happen if I look at this from a place of love or operate out of a place of love? Run that scenario through. Right. So think about, again, I just used the example of that toxic relationship. Okay. Maybe you're afraid to lose the friend. You're afraid to lose the relationship. You're afraid to be alone. Right. What would happen if you looked at that from a place of love or you operated out of a place of love? And in that example, specifically self-love. If you really loved yourself, what would a decision look like? And on the opposite side, what would happen if I look at this from a place of fear or I operate out of fear? And again, I already was just alluding to that. The fearful choice in the toxic relationship example is, well, I'd stay with them because I'm afraid to be alone. I'm afraid of change, right? I'm afraid of feeling unloved. So again, as you face an experience, a decision, a relationship, any of these things that are coming into your life, ask yourself what it would look like out of a place of love, what it would look like out of a place of fear. And then this is where you choose love. You choose love again and again and again and again, which takes practice, right? Because this does not mean, having this one podcast episode and going out into the world with some of this knowledge, right? It does not mean that all of your fears are going to just magically dissolve at once. I wish that were the case, but remember, you are human and you're allowed to be human and you're allowed to experience both love and fear. And you're allowed to not get it right all the time, especially at the beginning. I want to just remind you, though, that you are love. You are light. We're all love and light. So as you start to expand your awareness, look at your decisions versus love versus fear, and operating out of those 2 spaces. And then when you want to feel good, when you want to be in alignment with that loving energy that you are, right? And you want to be satisfied, you want to be joyful, that's when you choose love again and again and again. So, though the process, right, of bringing your presence and your awareness to the energy that you're bringing to the table, right? Through this process, you're going to start to recognize, am I choosing love or am I choosing fear? Right. And again, if you do want to feel good, if you want to be in alignment, you are going to choose love. And what happens is when you are tapped into that energy, that is where you can heal. That is where you can transform. That's where you can really ascend your being. And it begins with that awareness. Getting the awareness around, is it out of love? Is it out of fear? And then step 2, choosing love again and again. But the more awareness you're going to have around the energy that you're connected into, as you're navigating the journey, then the more you can choose love, right? Because you can't choose love, right? Step 2 of the process, if you're not first, step 1, aware of it. So it is this expanded awareness of where you are choosing to direct your energy, or where your energy is coming from. That's going to tap you into deeper levels of love for yourself, love for all, right? Because again, we are all love and light. So again, I always share these things with you. I know they're not always super easy, but remember, step 1 is start to expand your awareness. Ask yourself, is this coming out of love or fear? Go back and listen to some of those questions I posed. Look at some of your most recent decisions. Were you making those out of love, or were you making those out of fear? Then when you start to have decisions, have experiences, have, relationships coming your way, ask yourself again, what am I operating out of? Is this out of love, or is this out of fear? And then step 2, choose love. Choose love again and again and again. And remember, you are human. This process does take practice, though I know that with some practice, with some, implementation of this, you will start to see significant shifts in your life. You will start to tap into deeper levels, again, of love for yourself and love for all. And I absolutely want that for you. But of course, as you are working this process or with any other of the processes, things that I have shared, if you want support, I am here for you. So if you feel like you want support on your journey, on your journey of healing, transformation, journey to self-love, please sign up below for a free clarity call session with me, because I will always hold a gentle, loving space for you. And I would love to be there to support you on your healing and transformation journey. Remember, my dear tribe, this is ultimately all about the mission of making our world a more beautiful place. And that begins with better loving ourselves. And as you choose to operate more and more and more out of love, you are connecting into that love energy that you are. You are raising your vibration. You are tuning into your higher self, your inner being. And as you do that, you raise the vibration of our planet. So use these questions, use these practices, build your awareness, bring it into your decision making so you can choose love over fear. Because that is going to make this a more beautiful world for us all. Okay, that is all for today. Until next time, mwah! Much love to you all, tribe. Hey, tribe, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this podcast, make sure to like the video below and then click subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, I've got lots of free resources available to you to support your healing, transformation, and ascension so you can help in making this a more beautiful world for us all. Make sure you check them out in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in, tribe. And until next time, much love to you all.